Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my September TBR. So it's finally time for fall TBRs. This means spooky season, cozy season, paranormal romance season, monster romance season, basically all of the vibes that I flipping adore, and I'm very, very, very excited for it. I have a lot of amazing stuff coming up, but before I do any of that, I actually have to just get my TBR out to you guys. So let's talk about what I want to read in September. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would love to have you do so. All of my social media is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads Instagram and Twitter, along with the link to the Hideaway Discord that I share with my good friend Maggie. Don't forget to click the like button, comment down below, and let me know what you're planning on reading in September, and if you've read any of these, which ones should I prioritize. I'm going to try to organize these first by some buddy reads and required reads that I have, and then by genre from there. A couple of these you will have seen on my fall TBR, but a lot of them are books that you haven't seen me talk about yet, so let's just get into this video. Okay, so the first book I'm going to talk about is my Spelled by Romance book club pick for September, and that is Slaying the Vampire Conqueror by Carissa Broadbent. I'm very excited for this. It's super seasonal. It's going to be tons of fun. So Carissa Broadbent has become a really well-known fantasy romance author. She's been all over the place, especially the Serpent and the Wings of Night series. I think it's called like The Crowns of Nyaxia. This book, I guess, is set in that world, but it's fully a standalone. You can read it before, during, or after reading that series. It really doesn't matter. And I think it's going to be a really good pick. I've heard it's fun. It's also part of a series where each book is written by a different author that I'm interested in reading. I own the Shifter Prince one too. I really want to get to that, but this is going to be fun. It's about this girl, and I guess she has been chosen to off this vampire conqueror or something. I have like an enemies to lovers story. She's supposed to slay him, but instead falls in love. That's the general premise or synopsis. And I'm excited for this. We're going to be reading this book on live reading sprints. I think it's the second, I'll put the date up. It's the second Friday. Is it the second Friday? I could be wrong. It's going to be right up here on the screen and linked down below. I've got some amazing co-hosts that are going to be joining me for these reading sprints. It's going to be Kaylani from Kaylani Simply Me and Hannah from Hannah's Recent Reads. And we're all going to be reading this book together on live reading sprints. It's going to be a lot of fun. You can join us. You can read along with us, or you can just join us for sprints and read something else. That's totally fine too. Any spoilers are going to be discussed in the Discord with special spoiler tags. So no matter what, you're not going to get spoiled for anything, but we can discuss all of the nitty gritty in the Discord and just have a really good time. If you go to the Hideaway Discord, you'll see that Spelled by Romance has its own separate grouping, and there will be a thread for this book. So can't wait to get to it. So in the Hideaway Discord, we are also buddy reading the whole Horde Kings of Drakkar series, and we're going to be on the second book in September, and that's called Claimed by the Horde King. I think this has a very similar synopsis to the first book. I think they basically kind of all go the same. Girl gets captured, claimed, whatever, by a Horde King. There's 5 Horde Kings and then like one big king of like the country or the planet. I don't know. But there's these Horde Kings. This is very much like Dothraki fan fiction. So if you've watched Game of Thrones and you were a big fan of Khal Drogo, this one's for you. This is the second book, and I loved the first book. I gave it 5 stars. I know from what I saw, everyone in the Discord that read it really enjoyed it too. So definitely looking forward to this one. There's not going to be live shows for it or anything like that. We're all going to just be chatting about it in the Hideaway Discord. Finally, there's a bunch of buddy reads going on our Discord, but me and Maggie had originally talked about reading the Horsemen of Sleepy Hollow by Rebecca F. Kenny, and we wanted to read it. We ended up talking to some friends of ours about reading it, and then it kind of grew from there, and at this point it is a buddy read thread on the Discord too. So we are going to be reading the Horsemen of Sleepy Hollow, and I'm excited for this one. I've read one other book by Rebecca F. Kenny before and really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars, and she has a ton of retellings that I'm very interested in, and I just thought that this would be perfect. Like, absolutely perfect. Or spooky season, and I'm excited for it. I don't know anything about it other than it's going to be like a smutty Sleepy Hollow retelling, and that's honestly all I need to know. So that's it for the buddy reads, I believe. If I missed anything, I'll try to put it down below, but I think that's it. Let's talk about a couple of other books. One is kind of a required read. I really need to get to this. I've had it for a couple months, and that's Emily Wilde's Map to the Otherlands. This is the follow-up to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and I absolutely was obsessed with that book. One of my favorite books so far this year. It's, at this point, it still might be my favorite book this year. I don't know. It's up there though, man. I adored that book so much. It was like a cozy fantasy kind of set in a historical, like I think turn of the century. And we follow Emily Wilde, and she's a scientist, and she researches fairies because in this kind of like alternate universe of the real world, there really are such things as fairies, and she's writing an encyclopedia about them. She goes to Scandinavia to research a certain species, and basically is followed by a coworker of hers, and they have this like begrudging friendship, and it's flipping adorable. There's a romance. I love how the Fae are portrayed in this book. In general, it was cozy and just whimsical and enjoyable. I loved it. I loved it. I can't say enough really good things about it. And this is the follow-up. Now, I think this book comes out in maybe November or December? I could be wrong. I need to read it before it comes out because I have the ARC for it, and I was really lucky enough to get the ARC, so I need to read it. I need to read it. So that's definitely coming up in September. And the last ebook that I do have on my TBR is another cozy. Y'all know I love cozies. I've done cozy lists before. If you are interested in some of my cozy fantasy recommendations, I'll have my 25 cozy fantasy recommendations listed down below in the description. And this is Cant spelled Treason without T, and it is by Rebecca Thorne. And this is a sapphic cozy set at a tea shop. Yeah, and that's all I know. I think it's supposed to have very Legends and Lattes vibe, but add in a mystery. And it's at a cozy tea shop. And I just think it's going to be really good. This is one of the cozies that I've seen a lot of really great recommendations for. It's pretty well loved, but I haven't read it yet, and I really want to get to it. Now, it used to be on KU. It's not on KU anymore, but I actually got the ebook. Shh, don't tell my book Banathon friends. It's okay. It's okay. Shh, shh. So I got the ebook. That doesn't count. Ebooks don't count. Ebooks don't count for my Banathon. That's fine. But yeah, I did get the ebook for this because I really didn't have an option. I thought it was on KU. It's not on KU. And also you cannot buy a physical copy or get like that. I think it got picked up is what I think happened. Let me know if you know, but I think it got picked up by a publisher, and hence I'm having difficulty getting to it. So my only option was an ebook, buying an ebook for that. And that's what I did because I'm dying to read it. And I want the cozy books. It's autumn. All I really want is cozy, gothic, and paranormal or fantasy romance. Like, that's what I want right now. And that's it. That's what I want. Maybe a little sprinkle of horror, you know? So yeah, that's it for my ebook. Speaking of cozy, let's talk about a couple of my physical books that are cozies that I'd like to get to. Okay, so the first book that I want to read that is a cozy that I own physically, it was only just recently gifted to me by my friend Kristen, and she sent this over to me as a surprise, and it was so freaking sweet. Thank you so much, Kristen. And I was really excited to get to this. This is a sapphic, cozy, witchy fantasy. Like perfection, basically. Don't know anything about this. It says, Emmy Harlow is a witch, but not a very powerful one, in part because she hasn't been home to the magical town of Thistle Grove in years. Her self-imposed exile has a lot to do with a complicated family history and a desire to forge her own way in the world. And only the very thinnest bit to do with Gareth Blackmore, heir to the most powerful magical family in town, casual breaker of hearts, and destroyer of dreams. And it looks like on her first night home, she runs into Talia Avramov, An all-around badass adept in the darker magical arts who is fresh off a bad breakup with Gareth Blackmore. And it looks like the two try to get revenge together, and then maybe a sapphic romance develops between the two of them. I love that. I love that whole concept. I'm totally in. I can't wait for this. Sorry if you guys hear my kids in the background. They're fine. They're just fine. They're being watched. They're okay. They're just being rambunctious. Okay, so The Fairy Bargains of Prospect Hill by Rowena Miller. This sounds like a fairy cozy or fairy historical cozy, and I picked this up at Barnes & Noble a few months ago because it was one of those buy one get one 50% off, and I needed to get another one because I was getting a different book. I can't remember what I was getting, but I ended up with this one. But it worked because it was already on my cozy TBR. I wanted to get to this, and it says, there is no magic on Prospect Hill or anywhere else for that matter, but just on the other side of the veil is a world of fae. Generations ago, the first farmers learned to bargain small trades to make their lives a little easier, and it looks like our heroine's sister confides that her new husband is not the greatest, and so our heroine wants to help her sister escape him. And then I think she may make a bargain with the fae in order to do so, and things happen from there. So this sounds really cool. I love books that are surrounding fae bargains because things can get really interesting when you bargain with the fae, at least if you look at lore and like most stories that have fae in them. So I'm very interested in that. I think this is historical as well. This should be a good one. It's about folklore and sisterhood and fae bargains. I think it's going to be cozy and just something I want to curl up in a blanket and read. Finally, I think I mentioned this on my autumn TBR, but this is In the Company of Witches by Orly Wallace. This is a cozy mystery that really gives me practical magic vibes, at least with the cover. This is a whole series, and this is the first book in the series. Our heroine and her aunt have this like B&B, but someone gets unalived at the B&B. Her aunt gets blamed, and she sets out to kind of clear her aunt's name and solve the crime in the process. So a very classic cozy mystery synopsis, but I think it's going to have the extra witchy vibes, and I'm really getting like practical magic, gothic atmospheric vibes from the cover, and from what I've heard, it's a really, really good one. Yeah, give me all the witchy stuff. Okay, sorry if the setup changed a little bit, mom life, but the next few books, I think these are the last 4 on my TBR. I do believe I mentioned them on my autumnal TBR, but if you want to know which ones of those I'm reading in September or plan to read in September, because y'all know how I am with my TBRs, stick around. I just have 4 more books to discuss. So the first one is Ruth Ware's In a Dark, Dark Wood. I have really enjoyed Ruth Ware before. I feel like she really brings the atmosphere. She has thrillers, but they're very much mystery-focused thrillers, and I like that in the fall sometimes. I just like a really good mystery, and she brings kind of like the suspense and the atmosphere. So this one is set in the woods, I believe. I don't even see a synopsis for this book on it, so I'm not gonna read a synopsis, but I mean, I think it involves the woods somehow, and I love anything that involves spooky woods in fall. I've talked about this. I live in the woods. I just love bringing the vibes that are already surrounding me and making them super spooky. I mean, the forest can be freaking spooky. It really can be, and I'm hoping there's woodsy vibes in here. I mean, there's trees on the cover, and it's called In a Dark, Dark Wood, so here's hoping. And one more thriller that I do have on here is a gothic, and it's The Hacienda, and it's set during the Mexican Revolution, I believe. And this has got a romance element as well, and this is by Isabel Canas, and it came out, I think, last year. It's supposed to be gothic and suspenseful and a little bit horrific. I think it's more of like a horror suspense, possibly, but gothic with a romance, and I think it's supposed to have a little bit of Mexican Gothic vibes. I'm hoping, because I adored Mexican Gothic. I also talked about Bunny by Mona Awad. This is dark academia meets Heathers meets weird lit fic with speculative elements. So I have no idea what to expect with this other than it's weird. We've got a culty friend group who all get together monthly or something to go to this, to do like some kind of sleepover or event called like the Smut Salon or something. And I really want to know what that entails. I need to know. I need to know. I guess they all call each other Bunny too. So it sounds really weird. And sometimes I like to read like super weird stuff. I liked Catherine House, and that was really weird. So I think I might like this one. Finally, Gallows Hill by Darcy Coates. I have to have a horror. The Hacienda is kind of a horror, and I have heard people say that Bunny has horror elements, but this is like horror. Though this is actually a cozy horror, but I think this is actually one of her least cozy horrors. So I don't know. This is set at a vineyard. It's a haunted vineyard. Give me those vibes. Give them to me now. I guess we have this girl who goes back many years later to the house/vineyard that she grew up in. Her parents died there in some kind of freak accident, and things start to come up. She has to face her past. Hopefully she has to face some ghosts. And things get spooky, creepy, haunted, and basically amazing. And I'm hoping for great things. I've heard this is one of her best books. Y'all, that is it. Those are the 13 books that I am hoping to get to this fall. That's a lot. I know. I don't know if I'm going to get to all of these. I don't know if I might replace them with other ones because sometimes this is much more of an MBR. I've been mood reading to the max. But I have to say, most of these books have been sitting next to me in the living room, like where I do a lot of my reading, because I actually really want to pick them up. So I honestly do think I will get to a lot of these. Let me know if you're participating in Spelled by Romance Book Club. Are you going to be reading Slaying the Vampire Conqueror with us? Or are you participating in any of the other Hideaway Buddy Reads with us as well? Also, let me know if you've read any of these, if you think I should really prioritize them. I'd love to know that too. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe if you have not already. All of my social media, including the Hideaway link, is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.